Why hello there beautiful people, Caz Blackheart back with another Buccaneers franchise video. I know I've been out for a little bit. I was sick for about a week and I decided to take last week off as well. Partially just take a little mental health break from making content and whatnot. And also I had a lot of things going on as far as family coming to my house, but we're back now. And this video is just going to be a little mid-season recap where we take a look at the standings and whatnot. And we also take a look at a bunch of trades that transpired as we have now passed the trade deadline. So we look at the AFC standings to start off, and you got the Broncos, Ravens, and Colts all standing at 7-1 as of right now. The Bills are the other division leader at 5-3, and the wild cards are both out of the AFC North. We got the Cleveland Browns and Pittsburgh Steelers sitting at 6-2. Still alive in the hunt, though, you got the Texans sitting at 5-4, the Chargers and Chiefs and the Patriots all sitting at 4-4, and just barely alive, we got the Jaguars sitting at 2-6, the Jets sitting at 2-6, and then you have 3 1-7 teams in the Dolphins, Raiders, and Titans. Then you got the Bengals sitting at 0-9. They are the front runners for the first overall pick. They have a lot of first round picks, by the way, so they're definitely tanking and trying to rebuild for next season. But out of these teams, I would say the Colts are the most shocking team out of this conference. I mean, I really wasn't expecting them to go 7-1 with Andy Dalton at quarterback, but Dalton has done a really good job, and he might look to finally win a playoff game for once. If I had to pick one team that would probably go to the Super Bowl out of the AFC, it would probably be the Ravens or the Browns. I mean, the Browns always seem to find their way into the Super Bowl in most of these Madden franchises. But, of course, the Ravens are looking really good with Lamar Jackson at quarterback. But let me know in the comment section who you think will make it to the Super Bowl out of the AFC. So now we take a look at the NFC standings. You got the Seahawks sitting at first place at 7-1-1. Then you have the Redskins sitting at 6-2. I know FG likes to see that. He's doing a Redskins franchise on his channel, so make sure you go check him out. You have the Saints leading the NFC South at 6-2. And then the Packers leading the NFC North at 5-4. Just a half game over the Bears, who are sitting in the 6th wild card spot. While the Rams, who are slightly behind the Seahawks and actually have a tie against them, are 5-2-1 in the 5th spot. But the 6th spot is pretty much open. You have a lot of 4-4 teams, including our Buccaneers. You got the Falcons and Panthers there as well, the 49ers, and the Vikings all at 4-4. And don't sleep on any of these 3-5 teams. You got the Cowboys, the Giants, the Cardinals, and the Lions still alive. Philly, not so much. They're 2 games behind Chicago, but they could still make a push. Still got 8 more games to go. Having played the Seahawks, I would say they probably have the best chance at going to the Super Bowl. They did put up 50 against Tampa Bay, so we'll have to see what happens, but don't sleep on any of these teams. The NFC is wide open and more competitive than ever. But let me know in the comment section who you think is going to go to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. I'm sure most of you guys are going to say the Buccaneers, but if you're going to say Bucks, then pick a team that you think they're going to face in the NFC Championship game. In other news, you had the Dallas Cowboys re-sign Ezekiel Elliott to a 7-year deal worth $99.4 million. I believe that makes him the highest paid running back in NFL history, and Zeke definitely deserves it. He's kind of put the Cowboys on his back for the majority of the time that he's been on the team. So good on the Cowboys on getting Zeke re-signed. So now we take a look at a few trades here. We have the Colts trading Quincy Wilson and a 6th round pick in 2021 for Kyle Lauletta and a 5th and 7th round pick in next year's draft. The Colts were just trying to get some value for Wilson. They're pretty deep at corner with guys like Pierre Desir and Kenny Moore. So they got a little value from Wilson. Then you got the Cowboys sending Jordan Lewis to the Raiders for Arden Key and a 3rd round draft pick in 2021. A similar situation for the Cowboys. They're a little deep at corner and could afford to get rid of Lewis. So they get a 3rd round pick for him. Key will be another guy they just kind of rotate as far as being a pass rusher and whatnot. Then you had the Dolphins trading Josh Rosen to the Saints along with a 5th and 6th round pick. And in exchange, they received Trey Hendrickson, a 4th round pick in next year's draft, and a 6th round pick in 2022. With Bear Hostetler now the quarterback for the Dolphins, they didn't really need Rosen around anymore, so they pick up a solid end in Hendrickson. while improving their draft capital as well. Then you have the Eagles sending Rasul Douglas over to the Chiefs, who are struggling at corner. The Chiefs send over Chandler, the free safety, and a 5th round pick in next year's draft as well. So the Eagles get a little capital for Douglas. They are also in a similar situation to the Colts and Cowboys. They're deep at corner. They could afford to get rid of Douglas, and they did so. Then you have the Falcons sending over Duke Riley in a 3rd round pick in exchange for Solomon Thomas, who's been a pretty big disappointment for the 49ers, so this is more of a minor trade. The Niners get some more draft capital and get a pretty good reserve linebacker while trading away Thomas, who was a little bit of a bust over the past few years for the Niners. Then you had the Giants making a little minor trade, sending Kareem Martin to the Chargers in exchange for a 6th round pick. Martin really wasn't developing the way the Giants wanted him to, so they figured they'd get some draft capital for him, and they did just that by getting a 6th round pick. Then you had the 49ers getting Cam Robinson from the Jaguars in exchange for a 6th round pick. Robinson isn't a very good left tackle for the most part, but the Niners are pretty thin on the offensive line, and were able to spare a 6th round pick in order to improve it just a little bit. Not that Robinson's that much of an improvement, but still. Then you have the Cardinals sending Humphreys over to the Jets in exchange for Terrell Basham and a 6th round pick. Another pretty minor trade for the most part. The Cardinals pick up a little draft capital in a trade that involves 2 pretty low quality players for the most part. Then you got the Lions trading Jarrad Davis to the Patriots for a 4th and 6th round pick. Davis never really developed very well with the Lions, and now he heads to the Patriots. So it's another case in which the Patriots get stronger, although they are really struggling so far this season like they did last year. But it's a good job by the Lions to get some draft capital for a guy that hasn't really produced for them very much. Then you have the Rams sending Josh Reynolds to the Jaguars for a 5th and 7th round pick. The Rams are another team really deep at receiver with the likes of Brandon Cooks and Cooper Kupp, just to name a few, and Robert Woods. Can't forget about Robert Woods either. I mean, they're just way too deep. Reynolds is a really good receiver, and the Jaguars got him for pretty cheap as well. A 5th and 7th is a pretty good bargain for a guy like Reynolds, who's still a pretty good receiver, just didn't really fit in with the Rams. Then you had the Falcons trading for Tyus Bowser, and they send the Ravens a 4th and 6th round pick from this upcoming draft. They get their replacement for Duke Riley, who they sent to the 49ers, and give away a little bit of draft capital for a player who's pretty decent, but nothing too spectacular. Then the Chargers actually flip Kareem Martin and a 4th round pick to the Ravens for Jimmy Smith, who is definitely well past his prime, but the Chargers definitely need help at the cornerback position. So they're able to flip Martin, who they got in the aforementioned Giants trade earlier, and they get Jimmy Smith, who's still serviceable, but like I said, past his prime, as the defending Super Bowl champions look to get back into the race. Now we look at another pretty minor trade. The Redskins send Jeremy Sprinkle, the tight end, and a 4th round pick to the Oakland Raiders in exchange for Brandon Marshall. Redskins trying to make a playoff push and needed some help at middle linebacker, and they got it in the form of Marshall, who is on the older side, but could still help the Redskins win right away. And now we got a pretty big trade with my Tennessee Titans trading Delanie Walker to the New England Patriots in exchange for Ryan Izzo, a 3rd round pick, and a 7th round pick from this upcoming draft. Walker is well past his prime at this point, and the Titans are looking to turn the tight end position over to Jonnu Smith, while the Patriots have really struggled at the tight end position since Rob Gronkowski's retirement. Now, just a few more trades here. We got a pretty big one here as the Saints get Adam Shaheen from the Chicago Bears for Andrus Peat and a 6th round pick. Peat was never really a very good left guard for the Saints, and Shaheen was pretty much second banana at tight end for the Bears. He was never really able to get much playing time behind Trey Burton, so this trade pretty much works out for both players, and the Bears get a little draft capital as well. How about the Seahawks, though? They're getting a little bit more weaponry at receiver. John Ross getting traded from the Bengals to the Seahawks for a 4th and 6th round pick. And that was definitely a steal for the Seahawks as they add another great receiver to go along with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, who absolutely torched my Buccaneers early on in the season. Then you got the Bills trading Zay Jones over to the Packers for a 4th and a 7th round pick. Jones has mainly been a disappointment for the Bills for the most part. So they get a little draft capital in exchange for him. And the Packers finally add another receiver to go along with Devontae Adams, as they've been pretty weak at the receiver position ever since Randall Cobb left. And the Cardinals trade for Jake Butt, and they send over a 6th and 7th round pick to the Denver Broncos. Butt never really had a role with the Broncos for the most part, especially after Noah Fant was drafted. And now he heads over to the Cardinals, where hopefully he'll get a few more looks from Kyler Murray. Giggity. And you know I had to get my trade in as well. We have finally dealt Kendall Beckwith over to the Baltimore Ravens for a 6th and 7th round pick. Beckwith missed all of 2019 with an injury and just really hasn't had much of a role this year. So we decided to free him up and send him to Baltimore for a little bit of draft capital. Then you have the Cardinals sending over Hassan Reddick over to the Green Bay Packers in exchange for Adams, the right end, and a 6th round pick from 2011 and a 4th round pick from 2012. Reddick's been another guy who's been pretty disappointing since he got drafted in the 1st round. I think he was a top 10 pick as well. So the Cardinals cut their losses with him, and he's heading over to Green Bay now. So we have another Chargers and Giants trade. You have Denzel Perryman going to the Giants in exchange for a 4th round pick, Connolly the middle linebacker, and a 6th round pick in 2022. Perryman was known as a huge hitter back in the University of Miami, but never really established himself with the Chargers. So now he gets a fresh start in New York, and the Giants might be looking pretty scary over the next few years. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs this year, but watch out for them. And in our final trade for the trade deadline, you had Duke Johnson heading over to the Kansas City Chiefs in exchange for a 3rd and 6th round pick. With Nick Chubb taking most of the carries for the Browns, Duke Johnson's role was really decreased, especially when Kareem Hunt was playing for the Browns last season. And now he finds a new home with the Chiefs, who are really missing a running back for the most part. And they get their guy in Duke Johnson as they try to make one final push for the playoffs in the second half of the season. So that's going to do it for this video. Just wanted to drop a little something for you guys, because again, it's been about 2 weeks since I dropped a video. I'm alive and well, no worries guys. I will be dropping the Week 10 matchup against the Panthers over the next few days. It'll probably be Thursday, but it could be as early as Tuesday or Wednesday, so just keep your eyes open for that. Let me know in the comments section what you thought about all the trades. Let me get some grades for some of the major ones at very least. Let me know in the comments section if you think some of the trades were unfair or if you think they were a little too lopsided. Let me know in the comments section if you think that I just went a little too overboard with some of them. That way I know for next year when we do the trade deadline what I should and shouldn't do. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit the sub button if you're new as well, and you have yourselves a wonderful rest of your day and night or whenever you're watching this. And like I always say guys, no matter what happens, make sure you keep that mofo rolling. And I'm out of here. Deuces.